we have heard in the previous lessons, co-creation processes comprise of several steps. The one discussed in this week, problem framing, is a crucial one, as it will set the basis of all your future work. Problem framing is the basic mechanism by which we make sense of our complex reality. Generally coming after a thorough analysis of the context, the problem framing phase is an invitation to visualize the situation as a whole system and to analyze the different views, enabling us to identify the ones that can be improved. Involving relevant stakeholders that will each bring their take on the situation and will defend their interest is the key in building solutions that are relevant and beneficial to everyone. In opposition to solution-oriented thinking, which focuses on fixing problems by directly designing solutions, participatory thinking asks who gets to decide what the problem really is. In many co-creation processes, the problem framing phase is neglected. Problems are picked and defined in advance, without taking into account the needs and interests of the groups potentially affected in the future. How can you expect to address citizens' needs if you don't include them from the start in your process and let them have a say in the selection and definition of the issues your initiative is supposed to tackle? Before diving into practical examples and tools you can use to frame your problems, let's take a moment to have a closer look at the word reframing. We should be careful. Participatory methods have the recurrent problem of only giving a voice to stakeholders that are represented, meaning that are present at your workshop, for example. When an idea or a problem has been selected, we should not forget about the other dimensions of the overall system. This is why the co-creation process is often represented as a succession of loops. Problem framing is no exception to this rule. When a problem is identified, we have to go back to the systemic view and try to see if the issues that have been picked out matches everyone's expectations. How is this done in practical terms? Let's discuss two tools that are part of the Cisco toolbox, which have been used in co-creation processes to frame different kinds of problems. We will talk about the canvas and the frames. Both tools are made to be used in a collective setting. Their objective is to get different visions of the same problem, confront them, and guide participants to collectively decide in which direction we should move on. This should avoid the risk of putting various stakeholders into a problem-solving mode without first asking, why are we fixing this problem specifically? Therefore, it is important to involve different stakeholders in this process. First, the problem definition canvas. Before reframing the problem, we should define it. This template is composed of 4 different boxes that have to be filled out from left to right. The first 3 boxes help to assess the current situation. All participants can bring their point of view. For example, you can, like Cube Design Museum, one of the science centers experimenting with co-creation in the Cisco project, decide to focus on increasing the quality of life and fighting loneliness of aging citizens. First, we should identify the needs. These populations have a higher risk of social isolation, which is what we want to tackle. Then, what are the factors that shape this problem? This risk of social isolation is created by their situation. They can either be retired or suffer from decreasing mobility. Next, what are the evidence? How can we prove that this problem is relevant in society? You can base your work on societal studies or conduct interviews with the concerned population, for example. The last box is where the ideas are brought and created together. Participants will think collaboratively and redefine the problem, choose the angle and the issues at stake. After conducting different workshops, our lab slightly shifted its challenge and decided to draw its co-creation journey on the self-organizing potential of the older community in co-creation with policymakers. A second tool used in Cisco is the frames exercise, which helps to elaborate different visions of the same problem. The Frameboard Canvas is a tool developed by Guido Stumpf and used by Cube as a main tool in their design approach. A frame is a template that helps each participant to express their perspective of the problem. By crossing all the different ideas, the Frameboard provides a view of the global system. It uses a slightly different format as it gives more space to sketches and visual drawings. Participants are invited to reflect on the problem by describing their personal vision of the situation, identifying the public concerned, expressing the key problem, and some suggestions of solutions, for example. In this design methodology, the exploration of at least 6 to 10 different frames is recommended to visualize and understand the problem. Of course, there are other different tools that can be used to make problem framing meaningful. One of the key resources that was used at the beginning of the project is the book 101 Methods of Design, where you can find other exercises for different phases of the co-creation process. The tool we just spoke about are also featured there. More generic tools can also be suitable for problem reframing. For example, infographic and visualization methods can help you explore different dimensions of an issue. Systemic design is a way to ensure a representation of the problem from every angle before jumping into it. Syscode was heavily impacted by the 2020 global pandemic, as many other projects and organizations. It really challenged our way of conducting our activities. However, it was also a time for testing different online tools that have flourished and are now widely used in design methodologies. Collaborative tools such as Mural, Miro, or Padlet offer a lot of the features and tools that are present in physical workshops, such as sticky notes and whiteboards. Mind mapping tools or voting instruments can also be handy. Finally, I would like to end this presentation with an example of a more unusual method. Exhibitions can be an intermediary object to foster public participation and a tool to reframe problems. For example, Sciences Frugales, an initiative launched by Trace in France, used what we can call an open incubation approach to explore how to do low-cost experimental scientific research by hacking various available technologies at the crossroads between experimental scientific research, maker culture, and cooperation with developing countries. The exhibition was constantly changing over time, co-constructed with visitors who were invited to bring objects and give their feedback directly within the exhibition space. This innovative approach was granted the International Excite Mariano Gago Award in 2017 in the Smart and Simple category.